Good afternoon, everyone. I am Steendam from Ghent University, and I will present to you my bachelor thesis about the burrowing behavior of the European eel. The European eel is a very fascinating species that is extensively studied because of its sea population decline. However, many aspects of its basic ecology remain understudied, and one of these aspects is its potential burrowing behavior. Burrowing behavior has already been described for the American eel and the Japanese eel, and since the European eel shares the same morphology and ecology, we assume that burrowing should be observed here as well. One important aspect when looking at burrowing behavior is the substrate, and based on previous studies on burrowing species, we assumed that the European eel would prefer the least compact soil. Next to this, the size of the eel could also affect the sediment preference, and very interestingly, the European eel exhibits a catadromous life cycle involving different habitat types. This study focused only on the glass eel and the elver eel, and these are the stages that arrive at the Atlantic coast and start to pigment and search for freshwater habitats. So to test these hypotheses, we introduced the eels in different aquariums containing different sediment types, and their behavior was recorded with a high-speed camera and analyzed afterwards in slow motion. So luckily, they did make burrows, and we have a nice movie to show you. This movie has been slowed down 2 times. Super cool, isn't it? The burrowing started with the eel laying flat on the substrate, subsequently lifting its head, making horizontal head sweeps in combination with full body undulations. And when about half of the eel's body was beneath the substrate, the body undulation stopped and the eel only uses its head to further dig into the substrate. After being completely burrowed, the eel's head often popped up at another point on the substrate. When looking at their burrowing speed, we see that they are most efficient in fine gravel. When comparing sand and coarse gravel, we don't see a very clear difference. These are the results from the sediment preference. And to answer the question whether they prefer the least compact soil, we need to look horizontally. Looking at the glass eels and small elvers, we see that there is a lot of purple present, which is the coarse gravel. So we could say it is the least compact soil in our experiment, so hypothesis can be accepted. But actually, these small individuals were able to swim through the interstitial spaces and not showing any burrowing behavior at all. So actually, we need to reject our hypothesis. Also, for the large elvers, we need to reject our hypothesis since they completely ignored the coarse gravels. When answering the question whether the sediment preference changes during lifetime, we need to look vertically. When they had the choice between sand and fine gravel, we see no difference, so the hypothesis is rejected. However, when looking at the aquariums with coarse gravel, we do see strong differences, so our hypothesis can be accepted. The large individuals, they like to hide in fine sediments, while the large individuals love coarse gravels. And so my take-home message for today is that the European eel is a very spontaneous, efficient, and head-first burrower. He does it in all kinds of sediments, and it already starts from the glassy stage. And if you're interested in the implications of this burrowing behavior for the European eel, feel free to search for me in the reception, because I have some very interesting results of my master thesis that I want to share with you as well. Thank you.